Mack.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you? Nothing like it was just such a slow news day. I'm glad we finally have something to talk about.
Yeah, we had a little explosion of news there for a good hour-long stretch.
Yeah, it's a little out of control, but I'm ready to talk some comics. How about you?
Yeah, definitely. Some more King in Black.
And we'll start a long time ago, like the 70s or 80s or whatever. Symbiote SpiderMan #4, written by Peter David, art by Greg Land.
That is an interesting cover. That's a different one from what I saw earlier, and I'm not entirely sure what the connection is there. But yeah, so Symbiote Spider-Man. This was I really like this one. What did you think about it?
I liked it. I mean, I liked this whole run. It was kind of funny to see Monica Rambeau after everything that
Yeah,
happened in WandaVision this week. So yeah, it takes place in the past, but it doesn't feel totally disconnected just because of the whole time travel element. So I've been really enjoying the series. It doesn't have to deal with dragons and everything, like all the other Titans do, but it can still feel like it's part of the event.
yeah, definitely. This is actually going to be my pick of the week. So just right off the bat, going with that. Yeah, I really like this whole series. Like you said, this group of characters, when you've got Spider-Man in the symbiote costume, along with Rocket, Monica Rambeau, like you said, and Kang, just an awesome group of characters that surprisingly works very well together.
You
And
forgot Cosmo.
yeah. Well, Cosmo makes a big appearance in this one as well, and of course, we're gonna love every time we see Cosmo pop up. So that was a nice surprise here. But yeah, just a really fun group of characters. This series has been really great and really entertaining, and kept it simple. Some of the other comics that we had today got pretty got pretty complicated, and this one kept things simple and it was very funny. So just a lot of fun.
Meanwhile, um, well, I guess I should share my thoughts. I enjoyed it, but um, it's just fun, and I don't know there's more to say about that. I mean, that's great, and yeah, you had anytime you have Cosmo just talking smack to a Smythe, um, I'm game.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, over in the land of the dead, King in Black: Return of the Valkyries, #3.
Yeah, I've really liked this series up to this point, and I didn't dislike this issue, but it was very complicated, as difficult to follow at some points. They talked in the last issue about how there's really two fights going on, one in the real world and one, like you said, in sort of like the land of the dead sort of thing. And it gets tricky in this issue. There's a lot going on. It's also always, it only complicates things when you have Asgardian characters and the way that they talk. So it makes things a little bit more difficult. It's still fun. There's some really interesting characters here. There's a lot to enjoy about it. Some really great artwork, but yeah, not my favorite story of this week.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wonder if this would be better reading it in a trade where I could do it back to back to back, because I don't know what I've missed, forgotten some last week. But just there's a lot of Heims, a lot of Valkyries, and it gets really Asgardian, and I struggle with that one, the main Thor title, let alone when you're sort of dealing with the periphery of different realms and stuff that I'm just not super familiar with. I mean, it's not my fault. It's a hole in my knowledge, but I mean, just when I was reading comics, originally, like Thor took place on Earth, and so when they spent a little too much time in Asgard, I just kind of like I don't know that I fully have the backstory to really grasp what's going on here.
Yeah, when you're reading an Asgardian story, it sometimes feels like you're reading an IKEA catalog. Like a lot of the words are there's a lot of syllables, a lot of vowels. I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but I do really want to know what's going on with the Sentry. I would love to see him and his role going forward. So that's the sort of like side story in this that I'm really interested in and seeing how that plays out.
Meanwhile, we have King in Black Namor #4.
Yeah, this is a sort of a prequel series. So unfortunately we know like what the result of this is going to be, but I think we've kind of been on the same page with this one. This hasn't been our favorite, but I feel like now it has gotten to the point where something like, really cool, something interesting is happening. And this should be the last issue before that, right? Like it seems like we've hit the boiling point, and the next issue of this series should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I think this series has definitely picked up in my esteem. We're getting to a place where there's stuff happening, and it's not sort of just giving me the history of the various Atlantean factions and stuff that, just they all, not to generalize Atlanteans, but it's like it's a little bit. I have a hard enough time with politics and the Earth, let alone like stuff going on down there. So I feel like now that we kind of we know what's happened. We know from King of Black what more than the characters in many situations here. So I feel like this story's really picked up for me. I'm glad I stuck with it.
Yeah, it like I said, this issue I think got a lot more interesting than previous ones. I think this one, like I said, it's getting to that point where something really interesting is going to happen very soon. So this one felt more exciting than previous issues.
Actually got Black Cat #3. And I mean, just to get this out of the way, they just announced today that this series is going to have a huge tie-in into I don't want to call it an event, but a storytelling initiative to explain the history of the Infinity Stones. So, or in gems. But we're still in King of Black mode over here now. And despite this image not having the whole King of Black thing, it is a King of Black tie-in issue. A lot of mysticism, a lot more than you expect from a Black Cat comic. And I thought I enjoyed this one, but I read it back to back with the SpiderMan this week, which has very similar tones to it. So, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I really like this. I think, well, one, you mentioned that announcement, and it was very strange because I read this and then saw that announcement, and I was like, wait a minute, this feels very connected to this issue, but apparently it's not. So yeah, that threw me for a loop for a second. But I like this issue a lot. However, I think this one suffered from the scheduling conflicts and issues that we've seen in previous weeks, where this one should have been read before King in Black #4, I think, because I would have been guessing as far as the ending of this issue the entire time. But instead, because I know what happened in King in Black #4, I knew how this was going to play out. So unfortunately, that kind of takes it down a peg for me. Otherwise, this might have been my pick of the week. I really, really liked it. It's sort of takes you through the history of the character. So if you're a fan of the Black Cat, which I am, it's a very enjoyable, fun issue.
Absolutely. And then finally, we've got our non-King of Black issue this week, Amazing Spider-Man #60, which by default is my pick of the week. I've been very critical that I felt like a lot of this Spider-Man thing has been him talking to Kindred about whose fault things are, and it just seems like that happens every issue. And this one definitely starts out that way, but then it takes a turn that involves MJ and some other folks that I don't want to get into, that made it feel like, okay, we're turning the corner, and now this is all happening for a reason as opposed to just more monologuing.
Yeah, and reading this, I was pretty sure this was going to be your pick of the week. It is so it's very grounded. I mean, it's really, most of this story is just these two characters talking, and it focuses really just on the psychology of being a superhero and Peter coming to terms with his grief and his his responsibility and all of that. And I mean, it's kind of moving in a way. Like it really gets you inside the head of a superhero, as opposed to it just being, oh, well, he's got to go kill the bad guy. But what happens after he kills the bad guy? He's still a human being. He has to deal with that afterwards. And so it's really interesting to get that sort of story here. And yet they still managed to hit you with two, not one, but two big comic book-esque twists in the end of it. So it was very, interesting to see the way that the story kind of lulls you. Not that it's boring. It doesn't doesn't actually put you to sleep, but it kind of lulls you into a false comfort and then hits you with these two big points right at the end. And it's a lot of fun. Really good issue.
And we've been critical about covers that don't have anything to do with the issue, but I think this one does it perfectly, where it has that MJ, Peter Parker, SpiderMan, spoiler alert, love bit, but then you have the kindred claws kind of like arching it, which I just think is a great look.
Yeah, definitely. I like this cover a lot.
So before we get into the news, we got to talk about WandaVision.
Yeah, I've been talking about it all the week, so hit me with your thoughts.
When Mandalorian started and they had the child, right? And I was like, wow, Marvel's never going to get like that kind of reveal, right? Like, it's just, I mean, you just can't play that card. I mean, but if you haven't seen the episode, I don't know why not, but I'm gonna talk about it. But with Agatha all along, and first of all, we all knew she was Agatha Harkness. I mean, they didn't even really try and hide it. But then they played it like, first of all, the song's just awesome.
It's so good.
Thank you, Walt Disney Company, for releasing it early and not making me wait till Friday. And then you have, if you don't know, it's just a cool, whoa, she's a bad guy or whatever, right? But if you've been with us, it's like, yeah, you've been right. It was her all along. Like, like it played on so many levels. It's like, never did we know a reveal was coming, and yet we still loved it so much. Like, a lot of times when you see it, it's like, well, duh, but it was just masterfully crafted.
Yeah, 100% agree. And it works on multiple levels too, because like you said, if you're not a big Marvel Comics fan, if you're not familiar with who the character is, you're just entertained and shocked by the fact that there's this villain that just showed up. Whereas if you are a big comic fan, you're thinking, like us, wait a minute, there's something off about Agatha here still. This isn't exactly who she is.
Right.
Maybe there's something still, underneath the surface here. And so they're still keeping you guessing, even with the big reveal. And I think it's incredible how, entertaining this series has been and how much there's still to come with just 2 episodes left.
Yeah. And we've caught up, right, with sitcom history. So it's like these next 2 episodes, we don't know what to expect. It's not like we're waiting for the Modern Family episode we knew was coming, or the Family Ties episode we knew was coming. It was all, we have no idea where we're going to be on Friday. And I look back at like the people who like after the first 2 episodes were like, what is this? This is silly. Like, like they took it on the surface. And I think we knew we knew there was more to it. I mean, just, we read about this stuff all the time and, we know, but, I could see if you just thought it was going to be Wanda going through various sitcom eras every week, like that's not what you want. But the way they've all tied it together has been beautiful to watch.
And I think this is the only, at least so far, of the ones we know are coming, of all the Marvel series, this is the only one that will really do that, right? It'll be so different in the beginning and people will be second guessing whether or not they're interested. And now I think Marvel has completely earned everyone's trust. They could throw whatever they want out there for the first couple episodes of any show and everybody's going to stick through to the end. But yet with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's going to get very much back into what we expect from Marvel. So it's so crazy that they can go in so many different directions, and fans are here, whether they're enjoying it in the beginning or not, they're going to be, there for the entire journey. And,
we have the, moving ahead, the TCA did a virtual panel with Disney Plus today, the Television Critics Association. So Kevin Feige did a little bit of a press conference. And they talked about Falcon and Winter Soldier, six episodes, which is significantly shorter than WandaVision, although it seems to indicate that episodes are longer. So you'll probably see amount of content when all said and done. And then we did get a little bit of a delay with Loki, whose new release date is going to be
June 11th will be
June 11th, right? And we heard originally May, as I said, but we kind of thought we were going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And so we're getting a little bit of a break. Now, I should mention, with Falcon and Winter Soldier starting on March 19th and going 6 weeks, that takes you kind of through April, and then Black Widow is scheduled to be released May 7th. Now, who knows what's going to happen there? So you would have Falcon and Winter Soldier going straight into Black Widow. Then you'd have about 6 weeks after that before you gear up for Loki. So we'll see what happens. They might also do some assembled stuff, some, behind the scenes to keep the Marvel juices going. But, there's something to be said about a little bit of a break.
Well, it's interesting too, though, because as far as we know, at least the way the schedule was previously lined up, and we know things can change all the time, but we are still getting What If, and then Miss Marvel and Hawkeye were also supposed to be hitting in 2021. So the back of the year is going to be pretty loaded. So it's going to be interesting to see how that schedule plays out. Now, WandaVision was supposed to hit at the end of 2020 and ended up being January 15th. So maybe Hawkeye or Miss Marvel moves into January of next year or something like that. But we'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Hawkeye gets bumped a little bit. They seem to want, at least in this, they seem to want to give the movies a chance to breathe too.
Yeah.
So speaking of which.
Yeah, pretty hectic 24 hours or so for SpiderMan fans as far as the movies go. Tom Holland, Jacob Batalon, and Zendaya really like to play with our hearts and emotions there for a little bit, releasing their own fake titles. And then we did get a first look at some images from the film as well yesterday of those three characters. And then finally today they released the official title of the movie, No Way Home, which is it's interesting. We are entering the multiverse. We know Doctor Strange is involved in this movie, so really curious to see how this title plays into what this movie really is. Because there's also the angle of his identity being out there, Peter Parker's identity being out there, and him potentially dealing with some legal troubles. So we'll see how that plays out too. I'm really interested in this movie.
He's got to call She-Hulk.
Yeah, well, there's another Marvel lawyer that a lot of people are expecting to see in this movie too. We'll have to see if that works out.
I think I know where you're going with that. But, one thing I thought was interesting, it says only in movie theaters this Christmas.
Yeah. Well, we're already not getting the other Marvel movies on Disney Plus as of right now. Wasn't expecting to see this one on there, that's for sure.
Although I would love if Sony, since Sony doesn't have their own thing, would love if they would license out the Spider-Man films to Disney Plus, just so we could have almost a complete collection minus the Hulk that nobody needs. Right. Before we get too far, Kidder says, watching the stream while on my way from Florida to Tennessee. And thanks, Kidder, for joining us. Sorry, there was just so much today that I'm a little jagged. We did get some Doctor Strange news today, or not today, recently, that Danny Elfman will be scoring it, who obviously has a history of Sam Raimi.
Mm-hmm. I just put together today that Elfman scored the first Spider-Man movie. So I thought that was an interesting connection, obviously working with Sam Raimi on that, getting back into this Marvel universe here. So.
Yeah, Kevin has billed WandaVision, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man No Way Home as sort of, I don't want to say a trilogy, but a continuation. So it seems like we're getting news on all fronts on that sort of part of the Marvel universe. It's almost reaching the point where it's like, you know how in the comics there's like the X-Men universe, and then there's the, you know, like they're all together, but most of the time they kind of play in their parts. I kind of feel like MCU's getting that way, where there's like, you know, there's going to be Black Widow, Falcon and Winter Soldier, like, you know, sort
Right.
of the military style heroes, but then you also have like the Guardians of the Galaxy and those folks and Thor,
Yeah.
and then you have the interdimensional world of Spider-Man, Wanda, and
Yeah, and I never would have guessed that one part of this universe would be Doctor Strange, Wanda, and Spider-Man. That would not have been the group that I pieced together, but here we are.
do you have a tux ready?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a tux?
A tux? No, I do not.
Like a tuxedo. Because we're gonna go to a wedding.
I was wondering what this what this connection was here. Yeah, the Bride of Doom, Fantastic Four comic arc they announced recently. So a couple weeks ago, we did a Fantastic Four issue, and I asked you, "Do you trust Skye?" And then this cover got released, and now I'm kind of wondering, oh, was that even a? Should I even have asked that question? Was it that obvious that there's something off about this character?
You know, according to this cover, she looks kind of scrolly, huh?
Of course, we know better than to read too much into the covers because they tend to be misleading sometimes. So we'll see how that plays out. But
Also, the scrolls are not nearly as black and white as they used to be.
very true. Yeah, it's a good point.
So we will see about this. And then you covered Hasbro's Fan First Friday.
Yes, and they finished up the wave of Marvel Comics villains, which includes this awesome Doctor Doom figure from the Secret Wars 2015 comic arc. And that is, yes, that is him holding a spine and skull. Those would belong to Thanos, believe it or not. And one of the coolest panels in Marvel Comics history, I think, which you can go and check out. Most recent panel picks, you'll see that. So I thought that was really, really cool that they included that accessory with this figure.
Lady Deathstrike.
Yeah, some other really cool figures in this line here. Lady Deathstrike is obviously not. They've had a Lady Deathstrike figure in the Marvel Legends series before, but it was really cool that they updated the character, gave her the classic comic look, and made a really cool new figure.
The Hood.
Yeah, I love this character. Parker Robbins is a really, really cool, underrated villain. Not so crazy about this figure. It's basically just a civilian with the cloak added on, but yeah.
Somebody say the Hood.
Right.
Red Skull in his full Hydra outfit, right?
Yep. Went with a classic comic look here, gave him the Cosmic Cube as well.
And then they all come to this.
Yeah, the Build-A-Figure for this wave is Zemnu, a villain that I cannot claim to be very familiar with, for sure. So I'm going to have to read some Zemnu comics going forward.
Excuse me. Yeah, so that's a lot. Now I'm going to go a little bit off script here. I want to talk just briefly about the Disney Plus news as a whole. So as we said, March 19th, we get Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Then March 26th, The Mighty Ducks Game Changers. Going on April 16th, Big Shot with John Stamos. May 4th, Star Wars The Bad Batch. That's going to be, I think, a Tuesday. And then it'll go to Fridays, May 7th, because of, May the 4th be with you. High School Musical, the musical series, Season 2 will start May 14th. Loki will begin June 11th. Also on June 11th will be Zenimation Season 2. The Mysterious Benedict Society on June 25th, Monsters at Work July 2nd, Turner and Hooch July 16th, and Chip and Dale Park Live on July 23rd. So there's a whole lot coming.
Yeah, that's a lot of content coming up in the next 4 or 5 months. That's a lot.
Yeah, so we got a lot of work to do. So anything you want to bring up before we wrap up?
One other bit of news, they did cast Zoe Zimmer for the Miss Marvel series, which is pretty cool to see that they, adding to that cast. Zoe is sort of the popular girl / bully, and then the first person that Kamala saves as a superhero. So cool to see that she will be.
She's like, I heard her described as Kamala Khan / Thompson.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good way to put it. And Laurel Marsden is the actress who will be playing her. No relation to James Marsden, who played Cyclops. I did research that earlier. So
also from Enchanted.
Yeah.
So are you going to be able to sleep until Friday?
Tonight, yes. Thursday night is usually a little bit tougher. Waking up first thing in the morning to watch the new episode. It's like waking up on Christmas morning every week. So it's a little bit difficult on Thursday nights.
Well, I've got faith in you. I don't know how they can top last week's episode, but we'll see. I'm still hoping for justice for Sparky.
Yeah, we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a synthezoid Sparky in the future.
There needs to be more dogs in the MCU.
Well, hey, we need MCU Cosmo for sure. And then
absolutely,
whenever they bring back Inhumans in whatever way they want to, give us Lockjaw as well. And that actually brings up, or reminds me, new episode of Zacks of Life came out on Monday. The poll will be up for you to vote in our most recent draft, which was Marvel Roommates. So you can check that out and vote for me in the poll when it goes up in a couple hours.
Who is your pick?
So I'll give you my first pick. And if you want, a cool place to live, you want to live with Tony Stark, right? He's going to have all kinds of incredible technology, and your place is going to be amazing.
Good point. I probably would have gone with Cosmo.
That was a name that was brought up. I'll throw that out there.
Cosmo. Who else would I go with? This. Can I even go pre-Fantastic Four?
Sure, you can. Yeah, our draft rules are just any Marvel character you can come up with, pretty much.
Millie the model. She's never home.
It's very interesting the picks that you've made there and how similar they are to somebody else's.
Oh, I guess that's why we're friends. Cool. And then who's your guest this week? Do you have a lineup?
Yeah, we are going to be joined by none other than Doobie Mosley.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big get. It's a big get for our podcast.
Right. And he's going to I think he only knows 4 Marvel characters.
Well, yeah. So I'll give you this right now. We're going to be drafting, with this next episode coming out on March 1st. We are drafting the best green characters. So, and green in the color of their look, their outfit, not green as in most energy efficient characters. So
I guess that would be Tony Stark, right? Interesting. So you got to come up with 16 green characters.
Well, I spent a couple minutes.
Sorry, not 16, 12.
12, yes. I spent a couple minutes earlier trying to come up with a list, and it was way easier than I thought it would be. So I'm excited to see how this draft plays out.
I'd just like to thank Gamma Radiation and Skrulls for making that easier.
Right.
Any case, thanks so much for joining us. We will be back live, not live, pre-recorded at 7:30 with our weekly news video. And stay with us all week long for more fun from the wonderful worlds of Disney. Bye, everybody.
Bye.